Hi traders, this is Steve Miley, the market chartist on behalf of FxExplained, and we're now going to take a look at our regular weekly macro watch, our recap of the main fundamental, geopolitical and macroeconomic events that have impacted markets over the past week, the last week of February, and the outlook going into the week commencing the 2nd of March 2020. Well, last week was all about panic and capitulation. The spread of the coronavirus outside of China has intensified global concerns regarding a pandemic, notably with the spread of the virus in South Korea, Iran and Italy. In fact, it was the spread into Italy and the growing potential for a spread throughout Europe that triggered a far more aggressive capitulation type activity across global financial markets, which are completely now focused on the spread of the coronavirus and the impact on the global economy. Last week saw significant damage to global equity markets, plunging lower now, down over 10% from their record highs hit in the case of the S&P 500 we're looking at now, and really impacting negatively on all the riskier assets. Whereas the safe haven assets such as bonds, we saw huge buying into bonds, bond market surging higher, the US 10-year yield now at an all-time low below 1.20%. Interest rate futures markets for the US are now fully pricing in at least a 25 basis point rate cut into the March meeting on the 18th of this month, and we're likely now looking for a 50 basis point cut as priced in from the market from the Federal Reserve at their next meeting. However, the European Central Bank and the Bank of Japan are unlikely to cut rates, we feel at the moment, into more negative territory. So in the FX space, what is this has seen, as we've seen the yen return to its position as the safe haven king, with dollar yen plunging lower, whilst the euro has also benefited against the US dollar. The US sell-off within G3 against the dollar, Japanese yen and the euro has likely reflected the aforementioned anticipation of a cut in interest rates from the Federal Open Market Committee in March and potentially before. Commodity currencies continue to go lower, with the Australian and New Zealand dollars at multi-decades lows, whereas in the commodity space, oil has now plunged through $50 a barrel as global economic slowdown concerns have impacted markets, whilst the copper price remains vulnerable to still further decline. Gold initially surged to the upside, but the gold price has notably retraced over the past week, with rumoured profit-taking selling to pay off for margin calls on loss-making positions elsewhere, notably in stocks. Now we're going to take a look at the week ahead, the week commencing the 2nd of March 2020. So the coronavirus and its potential spread and any data on that spread is going to be key to monitor going into this week and likely throughout March. Central bank activity this week includes the Reserve Bank of Australia, which we have coming up on Tuesday with their interest rate decision. And on Wednesday then we get the Bank of Canada interest rate decision. No changes are expected, but the market cannot rule out an unexpected rate cut from either of these two central banks. On the political front, on Tuesday we have Super Tuesday, the US Democratic presidential primaries. And then as we move into the end of the week, we have OPEC meetings on both Thursday and Friday, where larger output cuts are expected given the recent plunge in the oil price. Although data has very much become sidelined more recently, we do now focus in on the data as we go into this week, having had the Chinese PMI data over the weekend, which was particularly negative, with the data now starting to be impacted by the impact from the coronavirus spread. Going into this week, we have the IHS Markit Global PMI data on both Monday and Wednesday, manufacturing on Monday, non-manufacturing on Wednesday, and similarly for the US, we have the ISM manufacturing and non-manufacturing on Monday and Wednesday respectively. And then the weekend's up again with the employment report from the US to kick off March. We also get the Canadian unemployment and employment report on Friday. So to recap for the week, global market manufacturing PMIs and US ISM manufacturing PMI data on Monday. The RBA, Reserve Bank of Australia interest rate decision on Tuesday with Eurozone CPI and unemployment data. It's also Super Tuesday, remember, the US Democratic presidential primaries. Wednesday brings Australian GDP the Bank of Canada interest rate decision, and again, market service PMI and US ISM non-manufacturing PMI. We get the OPEC meetings on Thursday and Friday, and the week rounds off with the US employment and Canadian employment reports. I'm going to wish you all a great trading week. Don't forget to follow us on our YouTube channel and follow us on our next MacroWatch update. So traders, don't forget to catch us on the next FX Explained MacroWatch and all the great content on fxexplained.co.uk.